Well, welcome to another episode of the We Talk Chelsea podcast with Tom, Tem, and Charlie, three blokes who united by love of Chelsea Football Club, who occasionally kick a ball around a pitch themselves. Boys, did you miss me last week? Was I missed? You can
Very,
lie.
very, very much so. But it was just another Groundhog Day, wasn't it? It was just another week as being a Chelsea fan. Luckily, it's all over now.
Thank the Lord. I don't think I was ever been so relieved for the end of the season to come. I had a celebratory drink at the end of it. Let me tell you. Have you ever had these things called? There's these things called Jubles, and they're like peach beer. It's actually like it sounds like really fruity, but it's really, really nice, really refreshing. I highly recommend it. Well, 2 games in a week. We picked up 1 point. Lampard's gone. Pochettino's in. Players are going to leave. I'm feeling optimistic. I'm feeling so optimistic. We've got so much to talk about. So thank you very much. We are live on TKS TV. Hello to the viewers over there. We're also live on YouTube. Where should we begin? What do you think, boys? Should we start for the football? Should we start with Pochettino? Should we start with Mason Mount potentially saying goodbye? Do we start with Ruben Loftus-Cheek potentially saying goodbye? Where do we begin?
Um,
I think we start with probably Pochettino. I think that's the biggest news of now. So why not go straight in?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's long been rumoured that it's probably going to happen. You know, Pochettino signing for Chelsea Football Club has been rumoured for the past, like, God knows how long, like at least a month. I think every week, all three of us have just been like, well, now's the time to announce it. Now's the time to announce it. And as soon as the season has been announced, next day, there we go, Pochettino signs. How are we feeling now this season has come to its end? Going forward to this to pre-season, as it were. I know the players are off on holiday. Well, you say they're off on holiday. It seems like they've been on holiday for the last couple of months anyway. But how are you feeling about Pochettino finally being announced and we actually see some sort of stability coming towards Chelsea, Tem?
Yeah, well, it's a lot to be excited for. I don't think this season could get any worse, to be honest. Like we're just looking towards next season. New players, new members of staff, new excitement, and hopefully, something to play for. I mean, I think what's killed off the last third of this year is the fact that we've had nothing to play for. The players have looked like they've had nothing to play for. They didn't look interested at one bit to get points from any game, to be honest. I'm surprised we actually drew against Newcastle. So, yeah, I think new tactics, new players, and possibly no cup competitions to get in the way of us building a new spine, a new team. Players actually learning to gel together, and hopefully a pre-season that actually goes well, where we're not traveling so many miles every couple of days. So the players actually get a chance to play, rest, and then play again into form for the start of next season.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie, you were a little bit hesitant. I think you might been one of the people that might have that kind of connection with Spurs as well. Like Pochettino, like famously is an ex Spurs manager, and usually managers go in the opposite direction. How are you feeling, particularly about Pochettino? Being confirmed finally. I think you wanted him confirmed a lot sooner, just to kind of put players on edge and try and bring a performance out of them.
yeah, I mean, I think now it's done and dusted. I'm not actually that bothered now. I mean, it's finished. It is what it is. But I agree totally with Tem there. I think. This last 12 months, when you think back, 12 months ago, we couldn't even sell tickets for home games. We couldn't open the club shop. We could barely, make any sort of financial transactions in the club. So, from where we were then to where we are now, in terms of a pre-season, it's much more structured, which is good. Um, this is a new manager. He's starting in what 2 days' time. I think he's driven a very hard bargain for that job. I think Bowley and Co know that they're very fortunate to get him and he's made it certainly under his terms.
Mhm.
And I look. I mean, next season is a very important season for Chelsea, probably in my lifetime the most important because if it goes sideways, it's going to be a complete disaster. However, I think that we stand the best possible chance that it will go quite well. What do you reckon, though, Tom? I mean, I'll chat to you, and you're quite a Pochettino in sort of guy. What do you reckon, mate?
I'm very much. I wanted to get somebody in sooner rather than later. Not necessarily somebody in to take the helm, because I think this current crop of players, I don't think it doesn't matter who you bring in tactically. I don't think you could get a tune out of any of these players the way they are right now. I think too many of them have got minds elsewhere where they're going to play next season. They don't want to currently play for the club at the moment. That's the way they are. And I think you could bring in somebody like Guardiola, and I think even he would struggle to kind of get something out of these players. Pochettino coming in, I think, is a good sign. He is, let's face it, he's a world-class manager. He's got historical background with Southampton. He got a lot of out of Southampton. He got Tottenham famously to a Champions League final. I don't think many people would have predicted him to do that. He's won the title with PSG. He's kind of broken the duck. Collecting some silverware. He's got a history now of managing big egos, and there's a lot of big egos in this Chelsea dressing room. There's probably going to be a lot of young players as well. He's famously worked with a lot of young players, and that's kind of the position that Bowley is kind of angled towards, and getting those younger players in. I'm excited, but I was excited when Potter was brought in. Do you know what I mean? I was excited when that happened, purely just because, okay, well, it's something completely different. Tuchel, he shouldn't have been sacked. It was completely out of nowhere. I didn't expect him to be sacked so soon into Bowley's reign, especially when he's backed him and bought a player that he liked in Aubameyang. It was bizarre. I'm excited for something new, for something different. I'm excited for a new Chelsea for next season. I think Pochettino is one of the few managers that we could bring in that is available, that would be able to handle it. It would be interesting to see. Who knows? 4 months' time into the season, might think, well, Pochettino sacked, and we're bringing in somebody else. It's you don't know what to expect for this club. If it was a Roman Abramovich era, you think, yeah, results aren't going their way, get rid of him, next one in, keep that cycle going along. But I'm interested to see how he deals with the internal kind of, not pressures, but the internal kind of hierarchy, politics with Bowley and things like that, how he's going to deal with things like that. I think it'll be interesting to see how he handles that, what kind of players he wants to bring in, put part of his recruitment. We've still got the Potter recruitment team from Brighton. They're still remaining, so it's going to be a combination of them. And then Pochettino's obviously going to have players that he wants. And, he might go back to players that he's worked with previously at Spurs, or he might go back to players that he's previously worked with at PSG. There's those options to come in. So it'd be interesting to see what happens, who goes. I think it's pretty certain who's going, and we'll touch upon that a little bit later. But it'd be interesting to see, in my opinion. Well, let's Pochettino's coming in, 4-year deal until 2027, it looks like. So we'll see how he gets on. But let's move on.
4-year deal they've given him.
4-year deal.
This is outrageous.
It's irrelevant. Yeah.
Well, it's a long time. The thing that I look at, right, is it's a clean slate, isn't it? It's a clean slate for any sort of manager coming in. I mean, there was a story that came out the other day that said one player had a nap in the afternoon and missed the team. Do you hear that one? And no one knows who it is.
I've read it.
I mean, is that a joke? I couldn't work out, but it just shows the kind of mentality there is in that training ground. This wouldn't have happened under a Guardiola, a Klopp, or a Arteta, or a Ten Hag, or whoever. This Pochettino's got to come in. He's got to bang the drum from day one. He's got to, he's got to have an iron fist from day one. Get rid of these jokers, right? Who have been festering this club for too long, and not even bring in anyone, just bring in the mentality. Because I think Lampard actually, believe it or not, I think he had them. He just didn't have the authority to give the mentality, and because he was in between transfer windows, he couldn't get rid of anyone anyway. He was just stuck with these guys, basically.
I don't even think it was because he was in between transfer windows. I think it's simply just because he's interim manager, and the players all know he's not going to be there next season. So why did they have to impress him? Why did they have to go out of their way to kind of get in the good books? I personally thought Lampard coming in would have helped with the Mount situation, but it appears not. It's an interesting situation that we're in. It's like what Roy on YouTube here has put. It's Operation Rebuild. 100% is. This is a brand new season. I thought that Operation Rebuild was going to be under Potter, but this is another incarnation of that. But let's look forwards and let's try and think about the games. Charlie, you wasted however much of your time traveling up to Manchester on Wednesday. Temba, I think you
Thursday.
said to me on Thursday, you said to Temba and I, "Oh, do you want to go?" And both of us said, "Absolutely not. There's no hope in hell that I'm going to be going to that game." Talk about what the atmosphere was like in the stadium at that point.
I mean, I think every Chelsea fan's pretty much the same as me. We're just defeated, but I think that one actually, like when I look back at it, and I've done a little bit of notes before this podcast. Thiago Silva didn't really feature in that match, I don't think at all, and he's probably about the only leader that we've got left in this team.
Yeah,
especially at the back, and we got battered. We don't actually get battered very much. The defensive record is actually not too bad. It just shows you how important he is to this team and how important it will be to replace him. I mean, if we, a year's time when he goes back to Brazil or wherever he wants to go, we've really got to be on course, because that fourth goal. Oh, I mean, it was a humiliation. And Wes Fofana is another one. You know, I've had this conversation with you guys, and I've said these guys, they turn mediocre, don't they? You know, after a few weeks, and I've had this thing. Enzo and Fofana, who were probably the two best signings that we've had in this last year. Both of them are mediocre. Fofana's made two complete howlers in the space of 5 days. Against Man City, he gave the ball to that player, and against Man United, he gave away that ball again. I'm sorry, that's not good enough. Rubbish.
It isn't good enough in that moment, but at the same time, all players are culpable of having bad games. You know, John Terry famously slipped taking a penalty. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things.
It's rubbish. It's just rubbish.
He had a bad game. He lost his head. We've all been there. I've been on a football pitch. You and I both know that I'm not the most aggressive people when it comes to football. But there are times when if I think things aren't going my way, I'll lose my head. It happens to everyone. Like, I know you have a sense of professionalism, like you can do that, but the game didn't really matter. Like it just didn't. Fofana, he gave away the penalty and that pass back. It was bad, and I think he's probably the first one to hold his hand up and say that is bad. But I do agree with you. Like, it's very interesting to see who's going to replace like Silva. I mean, Tem, what did you make of the situation when it came to the game? Like, I certainly didn't think it was going to be 4-1. I think you and I both went, it's going to be a draw, like casual. That's what we do every single time we played them for the last 2 years. It's ended 1-1 or 0-0.
I actually disagree. I thought United would score 3 goals. I don't know if you remember me saying, maybe Charlie might have said the draw, but I actually thought United would score 3 goals.
I said 4-0.
Huh?
I said 4-0 because I'm very positive.
Yeah, I said 3 plus goals. I didn't know the scoreline, but I knew United would score 3, and that mainly is down to Lampard, to be honest. I don't think he can coach defence. I don't think he can coach a clean sheet. I don't exactly know how we lost to his Everton team 1-0 last season, because that's the most unlikely Frank Lampard score of all time. So, in terms of the Man United game, I thought Fofana showed the one weakness that I think he's always had in his game, and that's his just lack of concentration when releasing the ball. I think he often, if you watch Fofana at Leicester and at Chelsea, he often either dribbles into situations where he doesn't need to be, or he gives the ball away cheaply in situations where you think a quality centre back would, play the smart option, not try too much of a bit like you remember when David Luiz first came, he would try a bit too much.
Hated it.
A bit. He's a little bit less erratic than that. Well, actually, a lot less erratic than that in the tackle, especially. But like he randomly thinks he's a bit too casual. Like he thinks, oh, don't worry, that player won't get to the ball. I'll just lay it off or easily, and it's that sort of lapse of concentration you can sort of train and build out of his game. But I think that's the only thing holding him back from reaching the top level. I think everything else he has as a centre back, That Bruno nutmeg was just disgraceful, to be honest. I think he should have realised that. If anyone watches Bruno Fernandes, that's the number one thing he always tries is a nutmeg through a player, and same as Jadon Sancho. So that was really amateur by him, in my opinion. So it's about, again, knowing the attackers you're coming against. But apart from that, I thought Silva this half of the season or last third of the season, he's looked just as bad as Fofana. He hasn't really carried that defence.
Yeah.
He hasn't, Charlie. Be honest.
Yeah, but then the one game that he's not played in, we conceded 4 goals. We haven't conceded 4 goals since Brighton, I reckon, before Christmas.
Yeah,
we don't get battered. People, we don't.
No, actually, we have conceded 4. Man City.
I don't think he was playing. I think he was injured. And not just that.
I'm not exactly sure, but
even if he wasn't, it's Man City. It sounds bad, but it's Man City. But we don't go around the country getting battered, if you know what I mean. I just think that Silva. That was a big mistake, having Chalobah there. I don't know why he was there in that too. It didn't make sense.
Are you sure he didn't? Are you 100% sure Silva didn't play?
No, 100%. I was there. I saw Silva walking up and down the touchline training. I can guarantee he did not play in that match. At all. Never even came on the sub. At all.
And the FA Cup?
Unless my memory is hazy. No, he didn't.
Was that the FA Cup or the league?
You mean against Man City?
Yeah.
Man City FA Cup.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant on Thursday. Man City. No, I don't know for definite. I'm pretty sure though. I don't know why. I've just got it in my head that he didn't play. I don't know why, but I'm pretty sure he didn't play.
He didn't. Bashir Humphries played.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why. There was a reason.
I think he's just come back from his injury. That's why.
Yeah.
So that's probably why. I have to. I think I have to be completely honest. I have to agree with Charlie in some respects, but I also have to agree with Tem as well. I've said this throughout the podcast. We said I think Thiago Silva is the Rolls Royce of central defenders. Especially for Chelsea, we're very, very lucky. It's very unfortunate that we've got him in the twilight of his career. I would have loved to have got him 10 years ago. I think he probably would be exceptional. But age is a factor in this, and I'm delighted that he's going to stay for another year. It looks like. But I have to agree with Tem in some respects. Especially in the last few games when he has come on, he hasn't looked as
even Forest at home.
Self-assured, like Forest at home. Yeah, he didn't look as. I go away from games I watch Thiago Silva when I play because I play as a centre back, so I watch him play a lot of the time and what he does off the ball because he's so smart and I haven't got speed. He hasn't got speed. He's probably quicker than me, let's face it, but he hasn't got speed. So I have to kind of think how he would. And I try and watch him and see what he does in certain situations. And I haven't watched that and think, oh, he's done the right thing here. I think even on the game on Sunday, there was a moment when Newcastle scored the Gordon goal. He was nowhere near him. Nowhere near him at all for that tap-in.
Yeah,
I just think mentally in the last few games, I think he hasn't been 100% there. Maybe it's just down to fatigue, end of the season. It's a game that doesn't really matter. So I don't want to hold that completely against him, but his form tapered off towards the end of the season. But I think that's fair to say that for a lot of players, if I'm completely honest.
And also the Arsenal game away, we lost 3-1 there. So could you technically add that as a battering? Because they could have scored 6 or 7, and he was terrible that game too.
And one thing I want to factor in as well is yes, Fofana, had a shocker in that game, and I think he, like I said, he'd be the first to admit it. But he is 22 years old. He isn't a Thiago Silva. He hasn't got hundreds upon appearances of first class football. Do you know what I mean? He's young. He's going to make mistakes. You have to it's part and parcel. Look at Lewis Hall. I thought he played exceptional in the last couple of games, but he's prone to those mistakes. There's a lot of misplaced passes, but he's young. You kind of give that kind of leeway for him, I'd say. But yeah, the Man United game, it was what it was. The Felix goal, came out of nowhere to the point. I don't even know about you two, but were you in the stadium when he scored?
No, I walked out after the 4th goal.
Yeah.
That was enough. But
I didn't even look up from the screen. I didn't even look up from my phone, to see the goal. I heard it went in. I was like, oh, okay. I just shut off completely. I didn't expect us to score at all. But it's interesting. how we move going forwards, like what these players are. Let's have a look at let's look at yesterday's game, Chelsea versus Newcastle. We'll review that one here now. So it's a game that none of us went to.
Jordan, sorry, Tom. Before you
Yeah.
just bring that up, could you bring up Jordan's comment about Mudryk?
Of course, I will once this plugin has moved out of the way. Let's have a look. So Jordan, if we had an option to sell Mudryk now for the money we bought him for, would you sell him or keep him? I'd sell him, 100%.
So,
what did you guys think of his performance on Thursday?
Atrocious.
Absolutely disgraceful.
It was atrocious.
I don't like him. He's just not a likable person either. So you get people like Sterling, for example. I quite like him as a player. I like him as a person. I like his attitude. I think he's got a really good attitude. He tries hard. He hasn't had a great season, but he's given it a really good go. Mudryk, I don't like that guy's attitude. I don't want him to represent my football club. That guy.
I don't know if you guys saw the video that he put on his Instagram.
Yeah.
They got a lot of hate online for it. Like, this bloke is in the gym, he's clearly with the trainer working his arse off. But he's, his trousers have slipped down a little bit and a little bit of batty creases on show. Do you know what I mean? And he's there like mocking him. It's not something you do now, like, especially in that scenario. And I think I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and put it down to naivety and an age thing. I want to, but I'm not seeing a lot from him to make me think I want to keep him. I think there's something there. Yes, he's rapid, but some of his touches in that Man United game were absolutely shocking. Like, considering you're being given opportunities to play in the team, he's not seized any of these opportunities other than against James Milner at right back when he came on against him after Milner had already played 45 minutes. I mean, Tem, would you keep him? Do you think you give him the benefit of the doubt, give him another year? But if that option's there now, if somebody came to us and said, "Okay, we're going to give you, we've got the receipt, we can hand the receipt back," do you send him back?
I actually think he could be one of the players to benefit under Pochettino. I actually genuinely think, with what's being said about Pochettino's hard work ethic and training, you've seen Mudryk, he does extra training sessions. He's always fit, raring to go. This could be a good thing for him. He might actually get selected due to just him, being professional in terms of taking each challenge as it comes. Maybe it might elevate his games. He might start getting some goals and assists from the amount of game time he gets, but that's purely down to him. I just wish he could really work on his first touch, because that's often what lets him down, and his final touch as well. I think the in-between parts where he's quite intricate. Sometimes he can play off a good pass. He can run into space very well. It's just that first and last touch that he really needs to work on. Yeah, I don't know if you agree, Charlie.
No, Charlie, I'm sure. Like, do you think it's simply just a case of working on the first touch? Do you think say for example that option's not there to send him back? Do you give him the opportunity to have a pre-season at Chelsea with the new manager? Because he's had Potter, and then he's had Lampard. Well, he's had Potter, he had Bruno Salter, and then he had Lampard. Do you give him the opportunity to work with Pochettino and see what Pochettino can do? And then maybe in this position next year, you think, okay, if we have that option to send him back, would you send him back?
Name one Chelsea legend over the years who has been signed and who started very badly, this badly, for a lot of money, and then turned into an absolute Chelsea legend. Maybe Drogba, probably about the only one. I can't think of any other players. I honestly can't.
Sorry?
That have been signed for a huge amount of money, like Mudryk has,
and had
started that badly, and then just suddenly become a world-class player. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. I'm sorry. Like, I hate to break it to you. It doesn't happen. So he's just not qualified for the job. Unfortunately, we've basically been conned. That's the way I look at it.
What about this way? What about if the option was there for? He's on a stupidly long deal because Todd Bowley is a business genius. What's to say we don't just send him out on loan for 2 years?
Who's going to pay his wages?
We'd have to subsidise it, obviously, but it's no different to what we've been doing for other people, for all 20 people that are on loan at the moment. We're subsidising their wages. So
if we've got somebody
on an 8-year deal, we can afford to send them out on loan for 2 years to develop in a different league and have him come back. So
Correct,
why can't that be an option?
But the way that transfer was constructed was purely based upon Arsenal's interest, nothing else. We thought that we were being really clever by pipping them to the post. Essentially, it was just a complete disaster, and they got what was it, Trossard?
Yeah.
For half the price, and he's probably 10 times better player.
Yeah, and that ball when it came across the box when it was 0-0 and it goes to Mudryk and he's there and he pushes it onto his right foot and he completely skews it. I was probably thinking Trossard probably would have scored that, and
it reminded me of Torres. It reminded me of Torres from Old Trafford. I mean, it's the same in front of the Stretford end, exactly the same rubbish.
Yep.
You know.
Well, we've got the thing, so I'll bring up a comment here from Matilda Peter here. So will Joao Felix, I'm assuming Joao Felix, will be in Chelsea? The season's done now, okay? So the rumours flying around at the moment that it's chances are we're going to bring him back on a loan deal next year for a season. Do we give the benefit of the doubt and say, look, he's playing in a system that doesn't necessarily suit his game? He's got a natural manager that's going to be settled for him that will want him as well. Would you want Felix back for another season? It's purely in just a loan capacity with an option. Obviously, if he comes good and there's an option there to get him for 50 million or something. I don't know. I don't work it. But do you take that option?
I think the loan option is probably the best. I'm still not quite sure purchasing for 80 million is the right option. Although it may be expensive because I think his loan fee was something around 12 million this year, I think, even for half the season. So that is
astronomically high.
Yeah.
And paying all his wages as well, which I think was 150,000 a week.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, so I don't know how much a 4-year loan would actually cost. So maybe it would make sense to just buy him. But obviously that's down to who we get as our other targets. I don't think he should be a priority signing. I think if we lose Mason Mount and we have extra funds available to sign him, then I would not be against it. But however, I think we need to focus on other targets first.
Yeah. I mean, Charlie, has your opinion changed? I appreciate that, Tem, I have to agree. I don't think he's a priority signing, a striker. I think every Chelsea fan is screaming that we signed somebody that's going to put the ball in the back of the net. We haven't had a 20-plus goal scorer since Diego Costa in 2017. It's been 6 years. The time has come we need to find somebody. But Felix, do you feel like have you seen enough from him in these last 5 months to warrant another loan deal?
Look, he can't even get in our team on loan. Let's face it, right? He can't every week. Some weeks on the bench. So why are we going to pay £100 million for a player that can't even get in our team, and we're one of the worst teams in the Premier League? Very simple. No, I'm sorry. That's that. If you want me as black and white as you want, that is exactly how I feel. He's not good enough, okay? And if he was good enough, he'd be in the team every week. He's not.
Can I just add to that though? I don't think that's purely down to him. I think that's more a Lampard thing again. I just don't think they're too. They just don't work together. I think Lampard wants to see a lot of work rate from his players, and unfortunately, Joao Felix does need to learn that in the Premier League, that he does need to work off the ball. However, he is a special talent. I think with the right players around him, you could get the best out of him. However, do I see that maybe working out at Chelsea? Maybe not. Maybe not. We'll have to see.
So I think we've all collectively agreed that we probably wouldn't have Felix back.
Well, what do you think?
On a permanent basis? I think if we're losing players that we are losing at a rapid rate, that we're gonna, we have a bloated squad anyway. So the Pulisic's, the Ziyech's, the Callum Hudson-Odois, they're all gonna go.
Yeah.
There's a fill the gap. Pulisic go in, Ziyech go in. They are in the squad every other week. Do you know what I mean? So that's players that are gone. So to fill that area until we find somebody more permanent, whether it is him at the end of next season, we buy him. He's done great. He's given us 15 assists and scored 15 goals. That's tremendous stuff. But the option's there. If we get him on loan, I think a loan deal, I wouldn't want us to buy him now. I think it'd be a very bad business decision to buy him now. purely based on what we've seen so far. I think a loan deal would suit him as well. He likes Chelsea. This is the thing. He likes Chelsea and he wants to play at Chelsea. There's not many players at the club now that want to do that.
How do you know that?
I've seen Chelsea play every week.
His wife giving you a call as she
No. You just bring up Dale's comment, and I want to also the last one about his Champions League club. The player himself has actually said that he would like to stay at Chelsea. Fabrizio Romano has reported that Chelsea want to sign him, and he's keen on actually making that permanent move. So they will talk to Atletico Madrid over these coming weeks. So where has this come from that he doesn't want to stay at Chelsea?
Well, I'm not being funny, Tem. If you're a professional footballer, you have a career that's worth 12 years at the top level, right?
Yeah.
And if you've got a team that aren't in the Champions League and you're a player that's worth 100 million, he can probably sign for any club in Europe, pretty much. Bearing in mind the Champions League's even getting expanded, and we might not even get in that, right? What kind of ambition has that player got? Do we really want these sort of players? And this is the problem that Arsenal had, because what they ended up with before Arteta is a load of players who just wanted to live in London. They wanted to do Instagram posts. Ozil, he was one of them. There was a load of them players who just they didn't. They just sat there and they wanted to live in London.
Yeah.
That was it. That was the only thing. And Chelsea's the same.
I think that's Arsenal more or less resting on their laurels. I don't think Chelsea are the type of team who would just sit there and be happy with us challenging for 5th or 6th. I think with the ambition of these owners, they do want us to get back to the top. And with Felix, obviously, he has played in the Champions League. He's played for Atletico Madrid, a big European club. He knows we're a big European club as well. We deserve to be back in the Champions League if we play the way we want to play. We've shown huge ambition with the players we've signed, the infrastructure of the club we're trying to be. So again, why couldn't sorry. Hello?
You need to turn that screensaver off.
I know. So why wouldn't he think that we will get back in the Champions League? And as Dale pointed out, with the World Club Cup being expanded the next 2 years, we will be in that World Club Cup as well. Yep. Just because we won the Champions League 2 years ago now. So I think it's hugely ambitious for him to show that we are still a top club if he wants to sign for us, because we're not in the Champions League, like he said. So why would he sign for us? He could probably sign for a Man City if they wanted him, or an Arsenal if they wanted him. If he wants to stay at Chelsea, then he can be part of this project of where we're trying to get back to.
And plus, it's like he may really like the club. He may really like the players that he plays with. Like, it makes a difference. Like, take ambition of football away from that. Just think of it from as a working environment. Like, say they're not a footballer. Say they're working on a building site, and you work with people that you don't like. You don't want to go and do your job. But if you work with people you like and you like spending time with, it makes it easier to get up in the morning and go kick a ball around a pitch or
but half of these players are going to be getting jobbed on tomorrow. I mean, these.
Yeah, but his best friend is Enzo. Enzo's going to be here long term. He might have other players that he speaks to, like Thiago Silva, who speaks Portuguese and Spanish, and Kepa, and the likes of maybe others that we don't even know might come. So it might just make him feel like this is the right club for him to sign, because at the end of the day, Atletico Madrid, it doesn't seem like him and Simeone's going to work out very well. So he might like the Premier League. Obviously, we might be his first choice, but it could be like Fabregas. He wants to play in the Premier League. If we don't sign him, he might go to Arsenal or another team. So it's really down to us to show him we have ambition of making it back into the Champions League.
And I don't think we won't not make it back to the Champions League. I think next season will be very difficult to do so. The amount of players, the amount of clubs that have caught up to where Chelsea were 20 years ago. We're competing at a much more level playing field, other than City and their 115 charges. But we won't talk about that. Let's move on. I'm conscious of time, so let's look at Chelsea and Newcastle review on that last game of the season. It very much had that kind of last game of the season vibes. But I think I sent a message to you, Tem, in the group, because I don't know, Charlie, you only managed to catch the highlights, but that second half, I thought is the best that Chelsea have played since we played against Dortmund all season, and I thought we created chances, like we were actually decent in the final third. Again, the same issue, not being able to put the ball in the net. But I thought we were exceptionally good at creating those chances in a game that didn't really matter too much. I mean, talk me through your perspective on that. I mean, you agreed.
Yeah, I thought we created quite a few chances. We actually kept the ball, played quite well. I was intrigued by Madueke. I thought he took the defender quite well. It was just a shame we didn't score near the end as well with that Pulisic chance. I thought he should have scored there.
And the Dan Burn handball, which wasn't given.
Oh yeah, that was definitely a penalty. I don't see how that wasn't given. I think if that was a high stakes game, I think that gets given. I just thought that was just waved away way too quickly. But yeah.
So, do you ever sometimes think maybe I sometimes think, am I being biased in this situation?
No,
because obviously I've got my Chelsea hat on, but
I'm never usually biased. But yeah, that just I didn't quite understand it. But it makes that's the sort of thing that infuriates the average fan, where they think it's a crime against Chelsea. I remember the Mourinho years when he was here and he said, "Oh, all referees are against Chelsea," or so and so referee should. I think it was Mark Clattenburg or
UEFA. It's always UEFA.
He mentioned a Premier League referee. I think it was like Chris Foy or something. I think it was Chris Foy. He said something along the lines of he should never referee a Chelsea game ever again because there's some sort of corruption going on here. And then he made that famous line where he said, he'll defend. He's the only pundit that ever defends Chelsea, and nobody likes Chelsea, whatever. And when he retires, he'll defend Chelsea. Yeah. Anyway. But it kind of draws you into feeling like that when you see decisions like that go against you. We saw Liverpool, as people used to say, or Man City pay the refs and all that. So again, I think the standard of refereeing is just poor at times. I heard there was an obvious back pass at the Villa game. I think someone just apparently just kicked it straight to the keeper's hands, and the Brighton keeper just caught it and picked it up, and no one said anything about it. So again, it just shows you like these sort of rules are just missed by and they carry on, and it's just a shame.
It's like what Roy's put here: final game of the season, refs are basically on holiday themselves when the game doesn't mean anything. I think I have to agree. It should have been a game. I genuinely in the group I put, that is a game we should have won. We absolutely not should have won. We deserved to win that game. I think we started exceptionally badly once again. In the first half, there were ropey moments, but we were very, very solid in that second half. And I thought we definitely deserved to pick up a win in that game. It's just unfortunately we weren't able to do so. I mean, Charlie, I don't know if you've caught up in the highlights, but is there anything that you saw from the Chelsea Newcastle game that gave you, cause for concern, or is it just same old shit and other good stuff that we can kind of take away, perfectly timed for 2 months away before we play Wrexham in America?
Barely work. I don't think there'll be sell-out copies of the DVD of that match in the Chelsea Megastore tomorrow, will there? Let's put it that way. It was just a dead rubber match. What? Because it was the best one in the last 6 monthts. Yeah. I mean, it was basically.
I'll watch that second half over and over again, and I'll draw that into my brain that this is what this season was, to take away the tediousness that has been this season.
I suppose the one thing. I mean, even the Man United game that I was at, you could argue that we were one striker away from a 4-4 draw. In some respects, we
had chances. We did.
Yeah, and even against Man City away last week.
We hit the post. Tem, he's not wrong.
A couple of times, Tem, we did get. No, but you laugh about it. But
we did have chances.
If we were a little bit more clinical, we would have. The Man City one, we were 1 goal behind the whole match. We hit the post twice.
Can I just say something as well? This is the thing that I think Lampard drills into your guys' heads, and it's something I admit I used to think as well. Do you remember one game? I think Everton lost like 4-0, and he goes, first goal, fluky goal, second goal, counter.
Brighton, it's a Brighton at home, wasn't it? That one,
Yeah.
I remember that one.
And I don't think when you watch the game in 90 minutes, it was not a 4-4 game. Man United was still all over us. I think in the second half they had like a 4 xG, and it just shows how bad he sets up the team. I do think, however, we might have lost that game 4-2, 4-3. But
that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
If you remember his very first game when we lost 4-0, we probably should have lost that 4-2 as well. But the thing is, we still should have lost, and that's part of what Lampard makes you feel when he kind of micro analyzes the little chances, but doesn't mention how bad we were tactically.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. Like, I think Lampard, he isn't a good manager. I don't think he is. Tactically, I think he's quite inept. But I have to agree with Charlie. In the game against United, we did create chances in the first half. We had a good couple of.
And the second half, even for the first 20 minutes of that second half, we were all over them. I would argue. We were until the third goal. I think we were okay.
The Havertz header.
Yeah, that was pathetic. The Mudryk chance. There was multiple. We looked like we were doing something. And you've got to remember, if you have a striker, if you've got like a talisman right there in the middle, it drags those defenders away, and it gives a bit more space to Sterling and Mudryk and players like that. The fact is, if you're Man United, right, and you're looking at Chelsea team, Havertz, it doesn't really give you a lot of threat, does it? You don't really look at that. If you're two defenders, central defence, you look at Havertz, you're not looking at that going, oh God, this is going to be a really harder day's night tonight, isn't it? I'm not going to get any sleep. No, they just look at that as like, okay, well, all we have to do is just, make sure, if the ball goes in the air, make sure you win the headers. That's about it. Because you know that he's going to get the ball at his feet and he's going to take about 10 minutes to decide what to do. We all know because we've seen it and they've seen it. It's not like tomorrow he's going to turn up and suddenly, do an overhead kick and all this sort of stuff and be able to, do a shot on the turn and all this sort of stuff, because he doesn't do it. So it's easy. I mean, I could defend against him. I genuinely could. You just push him off the ball. It's not that difficult.
I miss Giroud. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
I really do. I miss Giroud, the immobile man, but he creates space.
I think he is actually something we need.
It's somebody like that. But yeah, let's kind of. I want to talk a bit more about Lampard, obviously, in this. We can talk about the post-match comments, but just let's move on to that first. Let's talk about the post-match comments for the thing here. So I want to bring it up here. But a common thing that Lampard's saying about his standards have dropped at Chelsea. In his post-match press conference, I'll say Lampard said he could now be honest, and that standards in the dressing room were simply not there. He also questioned the physical condition of his players and if they were fit enough to compete. With the announcement of Pochettino imminent, it remains to be seen how many of that dressing room are in next season. I mean, do you think it's just Lampard trying to save face because he knows at the end of the season he's probably ruined his possibility of getting another top-level job in this grand scheme of things? He had 10 games. He won one game. One game. You can't come in that. I mean, how do you feel like? Do you agree with this post-match comments? Like, do you think he's finally in a position where he could be completely honest? Because he couldn't say it at the start, could he? He couldn't go really hard on them. I just wanted him to have like an Antonio Conte press conference meltdown. That's what I really wanted. I really wanted him to go, do you know what? I'm Chelsea through and through. I've been with this club, signed here in 2001. I'm the club's top scorer. All these players aren't good enough to play the badge. I would have loved that. I would have respected him for it, but it wasn't going to work. Like, it just wouldn't have done. Tem, you're probably like the most vocal critic of Lampard in terms of his managerial. Do you agree with that sentiment?
The thing is, everything off the pitch, I tend to agree with him, and I think he's 100% correct here. Again, I think, like Roy said, he does give you substitute teacher vibes. He doesn't know anyone, so he tells you how it is, and he just doesn't know what he's doing, though. That's the problem. But at the end of the day, you can say as much PR as you want. It's about what you do on the pitch as a football manager. if he wants to be a spokesman for the club, well, fair play, he's got it there. But if he wants to learn how to be a top manager, he needs to go somewhere else and learn. I think for him, as I've said many times, is restudy the game. I think he came into management way too soon. He needed to perhaps be an assistant manager under someone, or he could do what Eddie Howe did and take maybe a year a sabbatical and go learn from other leagues of how to set up a team tactically and implement his ideas, because he does seem like he wants to play the Jurgen Klopp style of football, punch for punch football, but he still needs time to coach a defense and stop leaking goals. I think he's a bit too arrogant in his own head with his tactics. He often doesn't like to admit he set the team up wrong or take accountability for some of the mistakes or substitutions he's made. So coming from that point of view, from a Chelsea standpoint, he's right. A lot of players aren't good enough, and a lot of them will be gone. We just need to focus on ourselves. And like Matilda said, I think we do need a centre forward. That's the highest priority for me, I think, for us to have a good season. I don't know if you guys have seen the report of we're not actually giving that as a priority. We're looking for Nkunku to play as a 9. And
okay, all right. So Nkunku he was the Bundesliga top scorer, and he was off, and he was with 16, and he was injured for a portion of that time because of the World Cup. So there is that, but also at the same time, Timo Werner was the top scorer in Bundesliga, and they didn't exactly transcend. And I do like Timo Werner. I wish we had a Timo Werner. Still, even though he wasn't the most prolific, and I think we do need somebody like that, but that's not necessarily going to transcend. But the fact, if that's the case, and Bowley isn't prioritising signing a number 9, I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think it's ludicrous for that. I don't think, we might be wrong. I would love to sit here and in December, and he's banged in 15 goals, and it's him and Haaland competing it, and think, do you know what a turnaround. We were completely wrong. But Charlie, could you see that happening?
Who are the 3 top players in the Premier League in terms of goals this season? Haaland, Kane, and
Salah.
Tony. No, I reckon Tony. I think Tony's 3rd.
What?
They're all number 9s.
Salah?
Yeah, he is. No, Salah's behind that. I've got the paper in front of me.
Oh, you mean this season in terms of
this season in terms of who scored the most goals. It's not wingers. It's not number 8s. It's not number 7s. It's the big man up front. That is the future. It's got to be done. Haaland, if we're going to compete with Man City, these sort of teams, it's Haaland, Kane, these sort of big, strong men up front, and Tony. These are the sort of players you need to bring in.
Absolutely.
We need a number 9. Simple as. That's where the goals come from.
I think if we need number 9 with the players coming in, we need somebody like a big man up top. Like, is the time now with Tottenham missing out on Conference League football as well, and Kane wanting to continue? Maybe might want to reunite with Pochettino. Could you see that happen at all?
No, sorry. I don't think we have anything to offer him that Tottenham don't at the moment. And I still don't think he'll ever make that switch. I don't think Daniel Levy will ever let him make that switch. I think the only team that could possibly afford him and he would like to go to is probably Man United. And I'll stick with that. I just don't think Daniel Levy would do any business with Chelsea. I don't see that.
I mean, Roy makes a valid point. We do have a big man currently on loan into Milan at the moment. He's perfectly capable of doing it. I mean, who's to say? You never know. Pochettino might have a lovely conversation with Pochettino, and he might be his boy. I don't see it personally. I think Lukaku's kind of ruined his kind of reputation with Chelsea fans. So I don't think it'd be very difficult for him to come back from that one. But I think I want to bring back to what Roy says about this is, for Frank Lampard, is he's very young in the game. And yes, he's been around for a long time in terms of football player sense. In terms of a manager, I think he's still very young. I think let's just move it here. So I want to put this little banner up here because you can see that we've really, really invested in the capabilities of StreamYard to trying to make sure we get the most of this. But what's next for Lampard? Like, where can you see Lampard? Where do you think he will go? What do you think he should do? Could you see it's just a case of him taking a sabbatical, or just sticking to media stuff, moving into director of football? Do you think Charlie? Do you think he's kind of soured his reputation at Chelsea a little bit?
Not at Chelsea, no. In football, probably yes, but not at Chelsea. Frank will always be welcome at Chelsea, and also, Frank's got a good brain actually, and Frank's a really clever guy. I'll be honest with you that my grudge with the way the season's gone has all been on Bowley, as you'll know. I think someone like Frank Lampard to actually advise him in some way wouldn't be a bad thing. Actually, I think it would be quite a good thing for Chelsea if he stayed within the club. Whether he wants that, I don't know. If he wants to stay in management, he certainly probably needs to, with no disrespect to him, have a year as an assistant manager somewhere to learn from someone else. He's just a little bit off the pace, I feel.
I mean, Tim, do you agree with that? Do you think he's potentially soured his reputation at Chelsea at all, especially with some of the newer fans, let's say, people that weren't necessarily around the first time he was at the club?
Yeah, that's the one thing I think the new age fans need to understand. I don't quite get this where they say, oh, why do you guys cheer Lampard's name? You're the reason why Chelsea fans or Chelsea's downfall. You cheer someone. I'm like, he's a club legend. Yes, he might be doing bad as a manager, but you don't know if this is the last time you'll ever see him. You've got to show appreciation at the end of the day. These players, managers, everyone feeds off the positivity, whether it's going good or bad. You don't forget the 211 goals he scored. You don't forget the wins at Tottenham away or whatever. And it's only something I think, in a way, you'll only understand if you're at a game. You'll only show your appreciation because at the end of the day, they won't come over to you if you boo them. They won't play for you if you boo them. We're all one club at the end of the day. He loves this club, you love this club. So why not show your appreciation when you do get the chance to be there? Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, he might not be doing well, but
I think that's one of the. He's a living legend. Like Roy's mentioned in the comments here, he is completely living legend. Like, I remember watching Frank Lampard play football growing up for us, scoring the 2 goals against Bolton to win us the league for the first time. Yeah. There's a lot of history with Frank Lampard, and I think it's very difficult to just disregard that completely. My comments is very much devil's advocate. I kind of have to play that role, unfortunately. It doesn't necessarily echo my opinion on the matter. I think he'll always be welcome back, and I think that's what Charlie says. In a different capacity at Chelsea, I would love to see him in a different capacity at Chelsea. We had Petr Cech as the technical advisor in the Roman Abramovich era. He had that connection to the club, to the fans. Could Frank Lampard be that person? He's certainly got the brains to do so. It'd be interesting to see. I think I would much rather he did something like that than go back into management. I think I'd like to keep Lampard at the club. The problem is does he, because of these managerial reigns, does that kind of sour things a little bit? I think that's the only concerns that I would have in that scenario. But yeah, I digress. I'm very, very conscious of time, so let's have a little look at what we've got here. So let's bring it here. So I think key thing from the Chelsea and Newcastle game is it looked like there was a few goodbyes for players. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know if it was. I don't know. Do you remember? Has there ever been a season where there's been so many kind of like goodbyes for like players, not necessarily just at Chelsea, but clubs as a whole, like the Bobby Firmino at Liverpool and the Milners and things like that? Has it always been so prominent that it's happened? But it looks like Ruben Loftus-Cheek at 60 minutes substituted off, and he did that thing and he's walking off the pitch, but turned around, waved to the crowd. It looks like Ruben Loftus-Cheek's pretty much confirmed that he's off based on that. And then you would have seen the videos on social media that it looks like the thing that we kind of dreaded is it looks like Mason Mount is off. Charlie, how are you feeling about that situation? Do you think we've really, 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 really let somebody slip through the net and potentially strengthened a Premier League rival?
Yeah, without a doubt. Going back to what you said about players and things like that in the past, my opinion on the reason for that is that players now they get paid their most money when they're at their peak. It's fairly obvious, right? And obviously, someone like Firmino is on probably fairly big bucks, and unfortunately, they just can't justify renewing a contract at that length, but someone else can. There'll be
Yeah.
someone else in Saudi Arabia or China or
The
whoever
rumors,
who'll
the
take
rumors
him
at the
on, right?
moment, the rumors at the moment that he's going to go to. It was going to be Barcelona. I mean, I know it's the We Talk Chelsea podcast, but Firmino's looking at Barcelona or Real Madrid. It's kind of as an understudy for Benzema.
Yeah, and I don't think there's not really such thing as a career club, but and again, it brings you on to Mount. Mount it's almost the same thing again. Where Chelsea can't justify for whatever reason giving him a certain amount of money. I personally think it's almost the perfect end to a bad season to let go of Mount. It's almost the epitome of what a season it's been. That there's players like that who've been at the club since he was 6 years old, who's very happy to leave the club because of a complete discontent with the owners of the club and the way the club's being run. And he can make a knee-jerk decision to go off to a rival, knowing full well that Chelsea fans will probably. I doubt we'll hate him for it. I'd be very surprised if he gets booed. Unless he goes to Tottenham, I'd be really surprised. I think it's kind of an understandable situation.
I mean, one of my best friends is a Man United fan for his sins, and he's pretty excited by the opportunity of Mason Mount coming through, and he sent me a message like, what's he like? And I went, this season with Holding, like, he has potential. He's very good at progressive play and getting the ball forward. I think United, if they get him for 50-55 million, what they're kind of quoting at the moment, I think they've got a really good player, an English player as well, that fills their quota. It's just, I think you're right, Charlie. It's indicative of where we are, and it's kind of a sad thing that we're losing a player of somebody that's been with the club since he was 6 years old, and like you said, and he's going to a rival. It pains me, and I worry. I think there will be players that there could potentially be fans that might give him a negative reaction, but I can't.
I don't think so. Unless he went to Tottenham or Liverpool. I think if he went to Man United, it's not that much of a rival. I think, and he's going for if I'm being honest, he's going for understandable reasons.
Biggest club in England, and
he's going for the money that we couldn't for some reason justify, even though the fans. The fans will never blame Mount for this. They will blame the board, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
I think I'm gonna have to echo that. I think it's another example of the mismanagement of the Boney regime so far. I think for all the people that have watched previous podcasts, I think I'm a big critic of it. I'd like to see them get it right. I kind of give the benefit of the doubt a lot of the more times than not, but I think this is a scenario that could potentially come back to bite us in the arse, because I think if he does sign for Man United, he's going to play for Man United, and when Man United come to Chelsea, he'll play for Man United, and he'll perform well against Chelsea. I think that's one of those things. I mean,
can I just add one quick thing? I think this isn't something new of us selling to rivals. I think for the last 10 years, you've seen quite a few players we've been open to selling to rivals, whereas other clubs have maybe not been open to selling to us. So yeah, it may have paid off when we did it, but I think this one will definitely come to bite us in the arse, as you may. And yeah, hopefully, if something can be agreed in the next week, hopefully Pochettino works his magic, and we shall see.
I just can't get looking at the video of him walking around there's a video. Is it the physio Billy? Is it Billy or the kit man or something like that? I think he's like feigned amongst the Chelsea fans, Chelsea players who all love him, and he's there, and Billy's got his arm around him as he's looking around an empty stadium. Like it looks like goodbye. Like, I'd love for something just randomly come and happen, but it definitely does look like it's going to be goodbye.
Chilwell as well did something similar. I think they know. Chilwell put his
they
arm
all know,
around, didn't they? Yeah, they know. I think Lampard said he didn't know, but he does know. It's just
he's got to say that. He has to.
Yeah, of course.
But it's interesting to see. I think is for all the players that we need to get rid of, he's one of the players I wouldn't want to see. Like if I had the option to keep Gallagher or keep Mount, I'd keep Mount. Like, do you know what I mean? To balance the books that we need to do for FFP. But I'm very conscious of time. We're approaching the hour mark. I don't know. Any other business for you boys, or should we wrap this thing up?
Let's wrap it up and we'll talk next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what we'll do is we'll probably do a review, a dissection of the season, a post-mortem, as it were, next week. But thank you very much for joining us this week. We will be live. Make sure you hit subscribe on the We Talk Chelsea podcast on YouTube. And I appreciate you for showing us on TKS TV. We've been the We Talk Chelsea podcast. This is Tom, Charlie, and Tem. Chaps, I see you all next week. Take care.
Yep. Take care.
Bye.